While mid-engine supercars are today's most desirable Ferraris, the prancing horse was once famous for its front-engine V12 sports cars. Enzo Ferrari believed the only way to make a real sports car was to have 12 cylinders and position the engine in front of the driver. It was a golden age for Ferrari, with some of the most beautiful cars ever to be created rolling out of the factory in Maranello. And the 250 PF Cabriolet was one of those cars. Ferrari's tradition of producing a car and then modifying it and making it a little more exclusive has been around since nearly the beginning of the company. The PF Coupe was originally introduced in 1958. Shortly after that, they came out with the Series 1 PF Cabs, and those were very limited production. They only ever made 40 of those cars, and today they are many, many millions of dollars. Then they came out with this car here, which is the Series 2 PF Cab. At that time, Ferrari was mostly into their race cars. They had some of the most iconic race cars in history. But if you wanted a street car, you wanted something that was a little more tame and more of a gentleman driver kind of car, then this was the exact car you wanted back in the day. Before I get too much into the history of the PF Cab, I should obviously mention why the car is in this current condition. So as you can see, this is a half-finished restoration. This car is actually mostly put together. It's really not that much more of a project. So a lot of the chrome, as you can see, has been done, and it's been sanded and primered and everything and is ready for paint. The interior's been done. So it's mostly complete, but it just needs a next owner who's gonna put it back together and get it back out on the road. The PF Cab was only produced for about 3 years, so it was a fairly short production run. The Series 2 all had the upgraded engine, so it had the outside plug engine that I had mentioned in our Series 2 PF Coupe video. And the big difference with that is the spark plugs are on the outside, so they're actually a lot easier to access than the earlier version of this engine. Even if you don't work on the cars yourself, your mechanic will definitely thank you for having the outside plug engine. The Columbo V12 itself has been a staple for all the classic Ferraris for many, many decades. It was their #1 engine that they used for so many different cars, and it's for a really good reason. It was just an amazing engine that was slightly modified and changed over time to fit the new eras and new cars it went in, and it was just this iconic engine that I still love seeing and hearing run today. Another thing about these cars is they do have the matching engine to the matching chassis number that I've explained in other videos. So on this one, the chassis is 2343, and there's a stamping on the engine that also says 2343, meaning that this is the original engine that was in the car when it rolled out of the factory. During the late 50s and early 60s, Ferrari did have a few models out that were cars you could drive around town no problem, or you can take them, drive them to the racetrack, race, and then drive them back home, which I've always loved that combination. Ferrari did want to introduce a car that was a pure luxury car. It wasn't made for the racetrack. So during this era, they did have the 250 TDF, which stands for Tour de France, and the 250 SWB, or short wheelbase, in competition models. Those were the race cars that you could drive around town or take to the track. But Ferrari introduced this car as just a pure luxury car. It's made to be super comfortable. It still has lots of power and sounds amazing, but it was just never made for the track. It was made to be an amazing driver. When Ferrari first came out with the Series 1 PF Cab, they realized after a little while that the cars looked very similar in some ways to the California Spider that was already in production. So with the Series 2 cars, they wanted to differentiate the two cars, so they made the nose a bit more round and they put these open headlights on it. The earlier Series 1 cars a lot of times would have the covered headlights that are a bit further back with the plexiglass on top. And if you put a Series 1 PF Cab next to a California Spider, you can definitely see some of the similarities between the two, but you can also see the differences. But at a passing glance, if you see one drive by, you may not be able to know which one is which. So Ferrari wanted to make that distinction. Ferrari made a lot of different improvements on the Series 2 cars, and one of the things they did is they made the interior a bit more spacious and they added more trunk space. Obviously, this car is in a project condition. However, the interior has been mostly redone already. So all the seats and the center console and the door panels and everything have already been redone in a really nice tan leather of the correct and high quality. So pretty much this car just needs a little finishing touches, some piecing together, and for the next owner to decide what color they want it. This car was the 109th of the 200 PF Cabs ever built. And originally the color was nocciola, which translate to hazelnut. People think that if you change the color on a Ferrari, you can't get the famous Ferrari Classic K book. And what a Classic K book is basically a book from Ferrari that says this car has its original transmission, engine, all the correct factory parts. But in reality, you could have a different color and you'll still get the Classic K. You could paint this a dark blue or whatever color you would want. The book would simply say originally came in nocciola and then now is blue. Same with the engine. They will actually, this one's matching numbers, so it doesn't matter, but on a non-matching number one, as long as it is the correct type of engine, so an engine that would have been in a PF Cab, then they will still give you the red book and just note that it's not the original engine, but the correct type. Now, one of the things about PF Cabs that I like is they come with the hard top, the soft top, and obviously the convertible option. So this one still has its factory hard top, which is actually sometimes very hard to find and a bit rare because when they made these cars, they really are all hand built. And so you can't take the top off of one of these and put it on another one and have it fit. There's just little differences between all the cars to where they just don't fit quite right. So having the factory hardtop and the redone soft top and the option for a convertible is the best of all worlds. Ferraris of the 60s were definitely aimed at very wealthy buyers. At that time, an average house would usually cost less than a car like a PF Cab when it was new, which is pretty crazy to think about nowadays. That's kind of what Ferrari was focusing on, and they made sure that all the cars they built were extremely luxurious, mixed with the power and everything you could want from a Ferrari. And I think they did an amazing job. These cars have withstood the test of time in a way where when you drive one around, you get that classic feel, but they really are very comfortable to drive and they just feel very luxurious and almost take you back in time, which is one of the reasons my heart is always with the classic cars. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and learned a little something about the PF Cab. If you like this, then please subscribe and stay tuned because we got a lot more coming very soon.